2020 admittedly was pretty rough for gaming. Don't get me wrong, I still loved playing video games and I understand why this year wasn't as huge as previous years, but it felt very lacking in terms of significant gaming content. At least for me it did. You have your trends here and there, you know, Tetris 99, Friday Night Funkin', the space game that I refuse to name. Alright, fine, Unfortunate Spacemen. But even if you're a fan of these games, chances are they didn't leave you floored or anything. These aren't really the kinds of games to take your breath away or leave you devastated. That's not to say that quality content hasn't come out in 2020 in terms of video games, because there definitely has been. Or that I didn't play any significantly impactful games in 2020, because I definitely did. But for me personally, there really isn't a game that has come out of 2020 that has been able to have that effect of leaving me extremely happy with my decision to play video games. If we start about 4 or so years ago, I can see a clear timeline of games I could easily say had that sort of impact on me. 2017 had Mario Odyssey, 2018 had Smash Ultimate, and even 2019 had Celeste's Final Chapter. But 2020 is noticeably absent in having that incredibly impactful game. And that didn't really change, but I did recently play a game that came out in 2020 that was a great experience. That game? It's Fall Guys. Seriously, this game might not be as popular as it once was, but with all the updates and seasons they've added, this game is a blast, especially with friends.
Who's Phil? Who's Phil? Where's the gift flag?
I definitely recommend picking it up again if you've dropped it, or get into it now if you never did when it was popular. I'm sure you'll still have fun. Anyways, there's this game called Omori that I picked up. It also released in 2020, and it's not usually my kind of game, but I mean, I'll see where it goes. Omori is one of the greatest video games I've ever played. On a surface level, Omori is a simple, Earthbound-like RPG, and while the influence is certainly there, it also feels like its own thing a lot of the time, whether it be from the dynamic battle system and its UI, or from its unique, childlike art style. From my knowledge, this game's artwork is all hand-drawn, and the effort that went into it seriously shows. The art style is really charming and visually appealing, and it's certainly not used sparingly at all. Every enemy, every follow-up attack, even most of the special attacks have their own unique animation added to it. I really like how the enemies and protagonists have 2 or 3 more drawn frames to give them a little more flair and make them stand out instead of being a still PNG. Admittedly though, the gameplay itself isn't very fun. Is what I was expecting to say, but I can gladly say that this game is actually very fun to play. The emotion system is a really cool addition, and it gives the player more options and strategies to add to battles. I really like how it's implemented here. I saw a handful of people say they wish it was utilized more, but I think I'm pretty content with how much it's used in battles. During boss battles, I'd say it's pretty vital to having me pass certain fights. Meanwhile, it's not entirely needed to complete regular battles, but it's just generally fun to use. And I love the OST to this game. This soundtrack is phenomenal. There really isn't a single track that I can say I dislike or does a bad job at portraying the emotion it's trying to give off. The songs are happy when they need to be, they're dramatic when they need to be, they're unsettling when they need to be, and that one is especially important for this game. Up at this point, you may have been convinced that this game is an RPG, and while a lot of the gameplay consists of turn-based combat and exploration, this game at its core is a psychological horror game. I would probably consider Omori a horror game in the same sense I would consider Parasite a horror movie. What I mean by that is that Omori definitely did get a few scares out of me. And while a lot of the scary and or disturbing aspects of it come from various events and visuals the game showcases, the tension, suspense, and drama this game is able to pull off is definitely highlighted far more prominently. Not to mention the characters and being able to care about what they've been through. Speaking of which, the characters. Alright, as you may or may not know, horror media in general can sometimes do a terrible, terrible job at making relatable characters that the audience cares about.
What is a troll?
But there are a few notable exceptions, Omori being one of them. This game really recognizes how much good characters can impact your experience. You could play this game and tell me any of these characters are your favorite, and I could see a very valid argument for each and every one of them. Hiro, Aubrey, Kel, Mary, Omori, Basil. This is such a great lineup of main characters, and even the side characters, while they aren't the most in-depth characters in all of media, they're still entertaining enough to make me want to keep going and see more. And the story. Oh, the story. Oh my god. Alright, I'm not gonna say this game's story made me cry, because it didn't. Crying is for babies and wimps and losers, and I am none of those things, okay? I'm a 5-star man. This game's story kind of did wreck me for like a week though. I won't confirm or deny that I had to rest my head for a bit after that. But such a child. You are like genuinely like the most immature baby person I know. What the hell? However, this is also the part of the game I refuse to talk about in detail because I fully believe that this game is best played going into it blind, so I will not talk about when Omori and very sad this at 4 a.m. That was pretty unforgettable, and I really don't want any of you to miss out on that. The most I'll say about this game is that the warning at the beginning of it and in the description is not to be taken lightly. Bright flashing imagery that may cause discomfort indeed. And this game is like sad or whatever. So overall, I surprisingly loved this game. I'm generally uninterested in RPGs, especially if the combat is turn-based. I feel like gameplay like that can get very uninteresting and monotonous most of the time. But thankfully, this game did an amazing job at keeping me interested, from the gameplay elements, to the horror aspect, to the characters, to the visual style, to the story, to the story, to the story, to the story. I really liked this game's story, if you couldn't tell. This game has so much to it that this video script that I'm reading right now is my third script talking about this game, simply because I really had no idea where to start or how to do this game justice in video form. And then I thought the original script to this video wasn't doing it justice in video form, so in the middle of recording lines for it, I went back and revised it. And even then, I don't know if this is doing it justice. I just really wanted to talk about this game. And that about sums up my thoughts on Omori. It is a very good video game. It is really good. And it is definitely a game that is best played going into it blind, so if you have any interest at all in this game, then I would highly recommend checking it out as soon as you can, because if you think you might enjoy it, then there's a pretty high chance that you will. I was initially anticipating this video to be about like 4 minutes long, but it just turned into something longer because of the revisions that I made. But I'm happy with the way that this video is turning out so far. And I'll be probably leaving some other notes as well in the description if you're interested in that as well. I have a few more projects planned. Hopefully they come out. Hopefully I'm able to keep the motivation up and get them going. But yeah, that about sums up the video. I hope that at least one of you watching plays Omori if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh yeah, and I hope you all have a good, at least a decent day. Okay, yep, that's it. Bye.